right, folks, welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Truck Middlesex Mattress Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and we can lower that a little bit now. It's overwhelming. Really? Isn't it? Well, we'll just cut it off then. That's fine. All right, again, from the top, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Truck Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. We're online at tjmshow.com and follow us on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. That's M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Hey, we're live streaming on the TuneIn app, of course. Just punch in WCRN. Take us anywhere. Download our app. We have a CRN app. Or you can tell Alexa, play WCRN. She'll do it. No questions asked. We also live stream this show on my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my YouTube channel, even my LinkedIn page and Twitch TV. So many, many ways to listen to the show. Not a big production, folks, just a camera in the studio. You can join the conversation as we broadcast from our palatial but not overly ostentatious studios in Westboro, Massachusetts. You can join it at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running, and that's simple, 617-297-8388. Text it like you would anybody else, 617-297-8388, or email text joeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in studio. Jazz is flying the board. Hey, Jazz.
Hey, how are you today?
Good. Good. We're installing some new equipment and stuff. So you looked all panicked there for a second.
We are having some technical difficulties.
It's
the
live
board
radio,
is
baby.
Not exactly cooperating.
Not a problem. No, it's just it's live radio. That's everything else good.
Everything else has been great.
I took Teddy for a walk before I went on. It feels like spring.
Oh, I know. It's gorgeous
out there. We're good.
Right?
Absolutely. As promised, it is an election year, and so much of the focus, right, is always on the House, and the Senate, and the control, and of course, who's going to end up being the speaker, all that kind of thing. But don't forget, there are a bunch of other offices that come up in November. We actually have the primary will occur on September 20th, and the general elections on November 8th, and we have a gubernatorial race. Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito announced last month that they were not going to seek re-election. That opens that seat up. Now, the Democratic side filled up pretty quick, right? Daniela Allen, I think she's a professor, and Sonia Cheng Diaz, of course, Maura Healey, probably outraised them all together. And the one male on the Democratic side is Orlando Silver. So that's lining it up. And on the Republican side, so far, it's still early. All right. So, I mean, I think we'll check with this. I think people can still get in the race. Jeff Deal, who has run for multiple offices since leaving the state rep seat, is seeking election to the corner office. And also political newcomer, Chris Doty. Now, Chris, I don't think we're going to confirm with him in a minute. I don't think he's held elected office before. He's a businessman, and it started a company, and we'll get more into that when we bring him on. But hey, our last president was never elected to any office before becoming president. Now our current president was nothing but elected to offices for nearly 50 years. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let me invite into the conversation GOP candidate for Massachusetts Governor Chris Doty. Chris, good afternoon. Thanks for taking some time out and joining us here today.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. Nice to meet you and your listeners.
Awesome. So you are a Rentham guy, right? Family?
I am.
Okay. And both home and business based out of Rentham?
Correct.
All right. Now, tell me, because I just in the setup, have you ever held an elected office? Is this your first run at anything?
This is my first run at an office.
Okay. There's a lot to talk about. We may have to have you back another day. And it's
I would
Massachusetts like stuff. You're one of the guys running in the GOP side of it. Would you prefer a primary, or would you rather you as the only candidate?
No, I think a primary is a good idea. It gives people the opportunity to kind of share their message and their story, and gives the voters a chance to sort of get to know the candidates a little bit better, and compare their backgrounds, their messages, and their values.
All right, yeah, it does make sense. Now you're married, 6 children, 4 grandchildren.
Correct.
Wow, that's great. Big family. Are they all local? And are they in Massachusetts still?
Yeah, a lot of them are local. I have a daughter who is a special needs teacher in Boston. I have a son who's up in New Hampshire in medical school, and then I have one son that's serving a mission for our church down in down in Mexico, southern Mexico, and then one that's studying to be a pilot in the military, and another one who's a stay-at-home mom, and another one who's in finance.
And another one, and another one, and another one.
I think I got 6 there.
Yeah, you got 6 in there. Pilot in the military, which branch? Air Force, Navy pilot? What's the
Well, he's in the ROTC right now in
okay.
college.
All right,
Yeah,
got it.
for
He
Air
wants
Force.
to fly. That's
Wants to
awesome.
fly.
That's awesome. Now, I understand that you're distinguishing yourself as the fiscally responsible businessman who's running to take that kind of common sense fiscal responsibility to the corner office.
That's correct, Joe. I saw a need here, and I'm not a career politician, but just saw a need in our state. We have a major affordability problem. I have 300 employees here, and I hear it from them every day that it's just becoming so expensive to live here. As a business owner, I feel it. We are now the most expensive state in the country to operate a business. And I get calls from Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, Florida, just I'd say about every 2 to 3 months, presenting why we should move our business and our jobs out of state.
Right.
And it got to a point where I just felt like I had to step up and say, we've got to have a counterbalance in the state house, and we've got to make our state more affordable for our citizens and our businesses.
Well, that's interesting. One of my notes I have in front of me, Chris, is actually we've had this mass exodus from the Commonwealth. People have been moving to Florida in droves, and they're escaping the income tax. Of course, you've got all the other inheritance tax, and then right now, the property values have been crazy. For some reason, the pandemic had an effect that a lot of people thought was going to be the opposite. Right, property values have gone up. Worcester is booming. All kinds of millennials, or I think even younger. What's the millennial cutoff, Jazz? I don't know. But the younger generation, those 20-something-year-olds coming out of college, going to college, flocking to Worcester because you've got the commuter rail, easy to get around, plus a lot of people working from home. So we have this mass exodus going on from the Commonwealth. And what are the policies? What as governor, what can you do to make it more desirable? I think Massachusetts is desirable as a state, meaning we've got the 4 seasons, right? Not the 4 Seasons Hotel. We've got 4 seasons in our climate. We've got the ocean. We've got mountains. It's a beautiful. I've been in Boston, raised in Massachusetts. I think it's a fantastic state. What bothers me is this tax structure, the cost of living here. We have a brain trust with the universities, great medical hospitals. People come from all over the world to come here. So desirability to live in Massachusetts exists, Chris, right? But how do we make it feasible for them to live in Massachusetts or to stay, stop the bleeding?
Yeah. It's particularly hard on the renters. If you own a house, you've gotten some appreciation. That's been nice. But if you're a renter, our rent is now the 4th highest in the nation. Just went up another 27% last month. Groceries, we're the 5th highest in the nation on groceries. You just go down the list. You see almost every category, we're so much more expensive. Now, you say, well, how do you fix it? It's so common sense. It's the same thing we do in business every day. We just benchmark. We say, well, what's Virginia doing? Let me give you a specific example.
All right, let me do this. Can you, because I can't fight the clock. It's radio. If we can take a quick break at 14 and a half minutes after the hour, we'll pick it up right there. You're going to give me the answer to what you're about to answer, and then you can solve the rest of the world ills after that. All right? You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Our guest is gubernatorial candidate Chris Doty. Stay with us. Back in a moment.
Cheryl Ann Gingle co-founded the Be Like Brit Foundation. She founded Be Like Brit to honor the memory of her daughter, Brittany Gangle. Brit died tragically during the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, along with approximately 300,000 others. To honor Brit's life and her commitment to those less fortunate, the Be Like Brit Foundation works to fulfill their vision to raise a new generation of leaders in Haiti. Please take a minute and visit belikebrit.org. That's belikebrit.org and learn more about our mission and see what your help has accomplished and will do in the future. Make a difference. Be like Brit.
This find of her home for Teddy's Friends brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Moto. He's a 4-year-old male terrier American pit bull mix, tan and white, and is very much house trained. Moto is an intelligent boy who knows what he likes. Some of his favorite things are strolling leash walks and quiet nights at home. This lovely boy is sweet and laid back and shy side with plenty of good manners and expects the same from both human and dog alike. For Moto, this means taking the time to get to know him. Moto is a gentleman who prefers to exchange pleasantries and go for a walk rather than to chest pump the high five type greeting that more outgoing individuals prefer. He is past that puppy stage and in the prime of his life. Moto is looking forward to living as the only dog in a quiet adult home. Moto's motto is relax and take it easy. If you share the same philosophy, Moto might like to meet you. For more on Moto, click Teddy Good Pup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Worcester Animal Rescue League. Find of Her Home is brought to you by Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoe on the radio at gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, so welcome back to the second segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Our guest is gubernatorial candidate on the GOP side, Chris Doty. Chris is a businessman out of Waltham. His family's out of Waltham. And Chris, you went to Brigham Young University and then Harvard Business School.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And so you said your son's on a mission with the church. Is that Latter-day Saints?
That's correct.
All right. Yep. And Brigham Young, and so that was what, 4 years there?
Yeah, 4 years there, study economics. And I talk a lot about economics because a lot of our problems here in Massachusetts are really just basic economic problems.
Yeah. Well, that whole the lean systems, cost containment, that's your jive, right? I mean, you lecture on this stuff.
That is in my DNA.
That's your DNA.
Like in my very core is making things more efficient, pulling costs out of budget.
Turning businesses around.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you and I have a little bit of that in common. That's been part of my CV has been actually turning red books and businesses to black, and then usually getting them ready to be sold off. That's how that went. Prior to the break, though, we're talking about the mass exodus from Massachusetts. Now, Massachusetts doesn't need any other fluff stuff. I mean, it has great tourist attractions, it has great restaurants, incredible schooling, great healthcare system in hospitals. We got mountains, we got oceans, we've got all that. It's the cost of living, it's the taxes, it's the regulations, it's even the politics tough here. So, what is it that a governor can do to stop the bleeding of everybody in all the U-Haul trucks headed south?
Yeah. I wish I could make it sound complicated. I don't think it is. I think it's just getting some common sense people into office. Let me give you one example. So electric rates in Massachusetts. So all of us are paying about 19 cents a kilowatt hour. Our businesses pay a little bit less, like mine. If we went just a couple hundred miles any direction, they're paying about 10 cents a kilowatt an hour, about half of what we're paying. And you say, well, why is that? Why do we have to pay double the rest of the country? It's really two factors. One is supply. We've cut off our supply. We keep cutting off our supply, and prices keep going up. The second one is regulations. As a governor, this is the simple path that I could take that I've been doing for 30 years. One is set a goal. The goal would be to get our electric rates similar to the rest of the country, kind of at the average, which would be about 10 cents, about cut it in half. Get all the stakeholders together, say, here's the goal, and we're going to meet on it every month until we solve this. And if we don't make good progress for our citizens, we're going to meet every week. And if we still don't make good progress, we're going to meet every day till we get to that goal. There it is. Pretty simple solution. You have to get everyone together and start working on it. It won't be solved overnight. So you have to hire a governor that's going to be around for a while, that doesn't have some career ambition to move on within 2 to 4 years, or someone that's actually looking for a federal office, which a lot of politicians are doing. Is the governor's job is just to step to some federal office. That's not the case with me. My career is, I'm coming to the end of my private career, want to step out in the public sector and fix these problems for my employees and for all citizens.
And this is what prompted you. I always ask candidates when their first time out, Chris, is what was the aha moment that you said, I don't know, what are you going to do today, honey? I got to stop at the farmer's market, change the oil in the car. You know what? I think I'll run for governor too. I mean, what meant, where's that aha moment where you go, I'm not going to run for state rep. I'm not going to run for state senator. Not going to run for Congress. I'm going to run for the governor of Massachusetts. And I'm assuming you had to have that very important spousal conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was the aha moment?
Well, it's hard to say there's one aha moment. I think it's a lifetime of building. I was a small business owner in the late 80s, right at the end of the Dukakis administration. I called all the employees together and said, hey, we're not going to survive. The workers' comp rules were impossible. Just about every state agency was after us. And I told, we only had 15 employees or so, and said, we're not going to make it. That probably planted a seed almost 34 years ago or 30 plus years ago, that if the state ever needed me, I would step out of my private life and I'd step up. And so it's probably been percolating in my heart for 30 years that if the state ever needed me, I'd step up and say, here, I can fix this for all of us, not just my employees, but all of us. And so maybe it's a bit of an evolution in this cycle. When I saw the way the state was going and who the candidates were, I went around the state trying to find a common sense business person that could step up and do the things that I feel like I can do. And eventually my wife said, hey, would you quit complaining? Just go do it. So it's partly her responsibility to get me out here.
Usually it's the other way. You're convincing the wife to let you do this. So you were actually looking for somebody that had either similar background or at least the similar type of goal of let's take some common sense fiscal responsibility to this, and you couldn't find it. And they always said, look, I tell people this all the time in politics, Chris, you're never going to find a candidate that you agree with 100% unless it's you. You're the only candidate that's you're ever going to agree with 100%. So it's always a matter of compromise when you're supporting somebody. Let's move it on to some other things. I think we've got a kind of a handle on who you are, family, business, great business background, this CAP scan. So you started that. You're back in what, the 90s, 80s?
Yeah, it was early 90s.
All right, early 90s. What do you do? You make what?
Yeah, we make metal parts that end up in vehicles and appliances. At one point we had about 6 factories around the U.S. Most citizens in Massachusetts own one of our parts somewhere.
Got it. All right. We probably have it in something we know, we own and we don't know it. At least it's made in America.
Made in America. Yeah.
Just let's do some quick things. Where are you? What's your stand on the mask mandates? And here we are in Massachusetts. Are you in line with Governor Baker? Would you have done things differently?
Well, I think we're moving from that government regulation to personal responsibility, and I'm so glad. And I think so many of us are glad to be kind of on the off ramp and coming to the end of
the off ramp. The off ramp. Yeah. This is like a highway. This is as long as a highway. This off ramp has been.
It does feel long, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's feeling a little long right now.
Do you think the Governor Baker's taken too long to get to this lift the mask mandate? Do you think the personal choice should have come in earlier, or are we right on schedule?
Well, it's easy for politicians to point fingers at each other. I'm, as an executive with 300 employees I'm responsible for, I'm aware that, you have to be sensitive and careful to the needs of a diverse population. And so I know they're trying to do their best to get it right.
Yeah. If the Freedom Convoy like thing was to come to the Commonwealth, where do you stand on it when we as Americans are watching what's happening with Ottawa and Montreal, Canada, the Prime Minister handling look, Chris, when you get Canadians upset like this in protesting, they're usually pretty chill, follow the rule type of people. And this Freedom Convoy and then the tactics being used, what's your stand? I know it's not in your wheelhouse, it's not in the governor's wheelhouse because they're not in Massachusetts, but they could come here, or a similar type thing could come here. What's your take on what's going on in Canada, and how would you handle it as a governor if a similar Freedom Convoy was to pop up within the Commonwealth?
Well, I really appreciate that question. When one party holds every single office in a state house, it's got a name. It's called a triplex, where there's no other party. What's happening this cycle is that Maura Healey and others are proposing that Massachusetts converts from a split state house to a triplex, where every single office, only 6% of the legislature are conservative. This is when you lose freedom. In fact, the Cato Institute made a list of this by state, which states have the least amount of freedom, and the bottom 10 are all triplexes. If you just go down across the board, New York, Oregon, Washington, Connecticut, this is a scary time for our state, and I hope the citizens sort of recognize, oh, geez, we're about to convert from a split state house to a triplex. And if you look at Canada, that's what Canada has. It's almost a single party control. It begins to feel like a dictatorship where the citizens don't have freedoms and don't have rights. They're going to hear me on the campaign trail beat this drum over and over again. Do we want a triplex? Do we want every single office in the state house to be controlled by one single party? It's like the Patriots never playing another team, just themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I can convince all the citizens not to let us convert over. Let us stay a split state house.
Absolutely.
Have rigorous debate.
First of all, Chris, you're going to have to explain to people what triplex is. So make sure you start each beat of the drum with making sure they understand that and what the dangers of that is. I think once they realize that's the term applied to it, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about. And probably, I would say maybe a small percentage, a few percents would love that idea, the hardcore Democrats, because that's who's in control. And that's actually what's going to be my next question, but we got to take a break. But when we come back, I do want to talk to you about how do you plan on making it work as a Republican in an extremely Democratic heavy state legislature, and Democrats in the fabric of government in employees here in the Commonwealth. So stick with us. Chris, you can stay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
okay. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back with Chris Doughty, who is the GOP candidate for governor here in Massachusetts from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, back on the other side, folks.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says if Russia invades Ukraine, it would be violent, and it could happen soon.
We believe that the world must mobilize to counter this kind of Russian aggression should those tanks roll across the border, as we anticipate they very well may do in the coming hours or days.
Sullivan was on NBC's Today Show. Russian President Vladimir Putin convened top officials to consider recognizing the independence of separatist regions in eastern Ukraine. Putin said he would decide on that later. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says there's a lot of signals that an invasion is likely.
Whether it's the false flag operation, whether it's the shelling in the Donbass region, or whether indeed it is the misinformation. We've seen a doubling of the amount of misinformation in the last week.
Still, the American and Russian presidents tentatively agreed to a possible meeting in a last-ditch effort to avoid war. I'm Ed Donahue.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on radio 830 WCRN. We're actually looking great this afternoon. We're going to see tons of sunshine out there, temperatures in the low to mid 50s. That's like 10-15 degrees above average, so enjoy it while you can. Even tomorrow, it's looking mild as we get more clouds rolling in, and eventually Tuesday is going to bring in a period of heavy rain and gusty winds.
If you enjoy listening to Full Service Radio AM 830 WCRN, don't forget you can stream WCRN on your computer or on your phone at WCRNradio.com and on your Amazon Alexa by saying, "Alexa, listen to WCRN." On the radio, in your car, on your computer or phone. We are Full Service Radio AM 830 WCRN.
You just may have the best podcast anywhere.
Blah, 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 blah.
But who knows it exists? Hello? Get your podcast to broadcast on radio. Create a podcast. Improve your podcast sound with professional production and editing. Record your podcast in a real radio studio. Visit podcasttobroadcast.org today. Get your podcast on the radio with podcasttobroadcast.org.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. His tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Our guest on air with us now is Chris Doughty, who is the GOP candidate, or one of the GOP candidates for the governor's office here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And Chris, going into the break, we were talking about the triplex and the division of the House, and that's really one of my questions that I wanted to broach with you is, how do you plan on working and getting anything done and through with an overwhelmingly Democratic legislature, as well as Democrats support just scattered throughout. They're filling tons of state jobs, right? The staffers and so forth. You are the unicorn on Beacon Hill. How are you going to be effective?
Yeah, a few thoughts on that one, Joe. One is it starts with the voters, not actually with me. It starts with the voters saying, this is we have gotten we're off the rails a bit. Consider, here's an analogy. Imagine 40% of your family has to leave the dining room table whenever you talk about something important. That is what the state's been doing. Our voters, we need to bring some balance back, some counterbalance back to the state house. I think the governor's just one office, and I hope we don't lose it. Otherwise, as I was mentioning, it's a complete whitewash. There's really no fiscally conservative voices left. So I think it begins with the voters. I think as governor, part of it would be, bringing the stakeholders together. It's looking at other states. Let's take New Hampshire, where they've had a split house, but it's a very liberal state. Virginia, and taking some of the models that they use down there and apply them here. But it is a concern. I also think in the Republican Party, hopefully we're at the kind of the low water mark. Hopefully we can start rebuilding the party. I've always said I want to be the candidate for governor, but I also want to be the candidate of the Republican Party. I'm a lifelong Republican from birth. I didn't join the party to get elected. I'm a Republican, and I hope I can help kind of.
Where'd you grow up, Chris? What state?
Grew up in California.
Okay, all right. So I was born in Boston, raised in Massachusetts. So we had shrines to JFK. I literally had pictures in the hallway, right? JFK stuff everywhere. And I thought to be born Irish, Italian in Massachusetts, it was part of your DNA. You were a Democrat. Boy, right. Did my parents get a rude awakening when I turned about 13. So I get it. Yeah. So the thing is, do you think, right, that the anti-democratic sentiment in the red wave tied to only that percentage of the Democratic Party that's been very vocal with the defund the police and the no bail and that nationwide, do you think that will carry any momentum for you say you're the Republican candidate going forward? Will that be helping you, remembering that Massachusetts is always an island unto itself, and many times we have voted against what the entire country have voted in, say, presidential elections. Massachusetts is a very unique political state, and sometimes we're immune to that kind of thing. But do you think it will have any factor or play this time around where it's so it's there? I mean, the polls are showing it. You've got Bill Maher sounding like he's on Fox News. You've got Democrat pollsters saying, hey, we're in trouble. Do you think that's going to help you?
Yeah, it's part of the miracle of our state, isn't it? That we've almost 22 of the last 30 years, we've elected a Republican governor. For all the time that we've been a really liberal state, we've elected Republican governors.
Right.
I think people recognize that you get into trouble when you don't have two parties on the field. I think, and we're a highly educated state, and I think the citizens know, boy, we can get into a lot of trouble, if we only have one party on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine how quick legislation would go through with a Maura Healey or, candidate like that. The legislation would just fly through, and it'd be kind of like a social experiment that Massachusetts would go from being this kind of unique state to just this incredible laboratory of social experiments that happen.
And I think you're right when you're saying it, because remember those legislators, right? Those reps and senators are elected with a percentage, a small percentage, 160 reps, 40 senators. The numbers add up and control the district. So you can get those people who are they're going to be Democrat, they're going to win those races. But when it comes to the statewide offices, you've got a better balance, and you've got that, I think, that common sense of, we got to check the legislature. We got to at least have one branch here, something, to keep it not from going crazy, like you're saying, to get out of control. And it's no longer a matter of let's debate this legislation. It's we're going to drive our agendas. That's it. And nobody can stop us and nothing can slow us down, type of thing. And on that note, Chris, this bill that passed the House, and it's been trying to be pushed for a long time, and that is driver's licenses to illegals. And it looks like, the governor said he would veto it, but as we just talked about, he doesn't have veto-proof power. He doesn't have the numbers in the legislature for that. So he could be vetoed on that. What's your stand on licenses to non-citizens of the country?
Yeah, for me, it doesn't pass the fairness test. Fairness is a value that I think we as humans really appreciate. And for all the hundreds and thousands of our immigrants, including, which is 90% of my employees, they were in line. They had to go through the process. Even my son-in-law is Canadian. I watched all the steps they went through, and it was logical. It was thoughtful. It was handled, I thought, well. And to all of a sudden say, well, we're going to give one of the primary perks or benefits of being a citizen away just by living in our borders, to me, it just doesn't pass any kind of common sense sort of fairness test.
Now, how would you respond to the proponents of that who say, well, it's a safety issue, of course, because if they're getting licenses, then they get license tests, and we know that they're safe drivers. So we have to do that, despite the common sense that shouldn't happen. The fact that they are illegally here, that they broke the law to get here, often an illegal means that they've committed identity theft at some point or somehow. Put that all aside, it's a safety issue, Chris, and we should do that so our roads are safe.
Well, I own a factory with a lot of fork trucks. Imagine everybody that's driving a fork truck. Anybody could drive it, and because they're not following our rules, we're going to go out and give them a certificate for not following the rules. I mean, it just doesn't follow the common sense that we're saying to each other, okay, they're driving without a license, so let's give them a license. Well, why are we in that situation that they would be driving without a license? And frankly, that's not the case with all of them.
Right.
I know so many citizens that they don't drive because they don't have a driver's license. So they have to get rides. They have to work on getting legal immigration. So again, just to me, it doesn't pass a common sense test.
Right. And we as citizens, I mean, we lose our privilege to drive on many occasions. We have too many accidents within a calendar year. If we drive drunk, even if we don't drive drunk, but you refuse a breathalyzer, that's automatic loss of license. And then if you drive, it's driving without a license. So there's a lot. I think that there's a lot there that is going to, and this is where the disconnect is, Chris, right? That a lot of citizens don't understand this, do not want this, but yet it passed the House.
That's right.
And then the question is, so is that really representative of the citizens that they were elected by?
Yeah.
And whose agenda is it? What is it going to do? All right. We're going to have to take, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, I agree with you, Joe. Very common sense.
Yeah. Thanks. That's our tagline. Common sense conversation for the common sense citizen. We're going to have to take another quick break here, and in our final segment, I do want to get into drugs, EBT cards, fraud, and voting. It's a lot. Like I said, I don't know if we'll fit everything in one show, Chris, but stick with us, folks. We're going to take a quick break here. The Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Our guest is Chris Doty, who's the GOP candidate for governor here in the Commonwealth. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available if you want to get a question in to the candidate. You're welcome to do so. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side. Hey, Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, heard each weekday right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to follow the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Enjoy sitting down with your family for an Italian home-cooked meal? A trip to Ziti's is just like that, every time. The smells and tastes of true time-tested Italian recipes, the best in Italian cuisine, served by some of the nicest people you will ever meet. Ziti's fine Italian cooking is a favorite in Metro West at Turnpike Road in Westboro. Every meal at Ziti's is one you will remember. Head on down to Ziti's. All the best food Italy has to offer right here in your backyard.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. He brings a knife to a gunfight, just to make the odds even. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Our guest online with us is Chris Stouty, who is the GOP candidate, or one of the GOP candidates for the corner office on Beacon Hill. I'd like to replace Governor Baker come this November. So this is what we're looking at. There's not a lot of Republican. I don't think there's any lieutenant governors. Chris, is there? Anybody step up for that? I think there was one, and they disqualified or dropped out or something. So we have an open field there. But headed into the break, I wanted to shift gears into a couple of things. One is the legislature just they would pass the new voter rules and so forth. What is your take on the overall situation of voter fraud, the ability? We've got the idea of drop boxes, which I think is the most asinine thing in the world, and the mass mailing. That's they added the mass mailing, which I think rife for fraud. We always have had absentee ballot. If you don't want to physically go to the poll, you call your clerk up. Boom, they send you the thing, you fill it out, you put it back, they got the signature. It worked very well. This just mailing ballots out. I don't know if that's the wisest thing. and then the fluctuation of acceptance and so forth. Where are you on the? Because we've been talking about this for years, and it's not just the Trump and Hillary. Remember Florida and the Chads and all that. It's been an issue for a long time. Voter fraud in the Commonwealth. Where are you on that?
Well, if I were governor, I would say to the legislature, let's not work on this. Let's go work on things that really matter to citizens. Let's work on affordability. Let's work on, things that people really care about. Again, not as a career politician. I'm not one.
I got to pause you there.
Yeah.
You don't think citizens are concerned about their vote and the integrity of their vote and their vote being countermanted?
I guess what I'm saying is that to all these changes that they're proposing right now to make it, same day registration,
right?
The drop boxes, all these things. It's what I hear on the campaign trail is that people aren't really clamoring to make all these changes.
No, but they are. But the legislature is making them.
The legislature is.
Yeah.
But again, if I were governor, I would say to the legislature, "Hey, why are you guys working on changing this?" The things that are really impacting citizens are, these other things that we've been talking about: the affordability, the housing, groceries, those types of things. I don't support. I think voter ID makes sense to me. That when you go to cast your ballot, you have to show who you really are. I've always thought it's odd that I can just walk down to my voting station and just tell them my name and they believe me. I think we should have some voter. Right. I don't like the idea of campaigns going around collecting ballots. I think getting campaigns involved.
It's ballot harvesting.
The ballot harvesting is a terrible idea. I agree with you on the drop boxes.
And I go so far, Chris, as to I don't like the idea that they automatically register people to vote for doing something else in their life and not doing it. And the reason for that, I'll be quick about it, is voting is so important. It's really the only way we have to control our government, period. The citizen, that's it. We're not voting in the legislature. We're not doing it. That's it. It's a ballot box. That's why it is so important. And it's such an important thing to have. And if you want to vote, then I think that you should make that conscious effort to register yourself and make sure that you're registered to vote. If you're automatically registered to vote, because there's something else you did, there's a pretty good chance you're not showing up to vote because you didn't take the effort to register to vote. It's not even on your radar. That means you have thousands and thousands of people who are registered with no intention of showing up. To me, that's around in the chamber. That's giving you a pool of voters that aren't going to take the time to go vote. I don't like that concept. I don't like that idea. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's why a voter ID, the act. So when it's leveled at you, do you believe in ID, and they say that's racist? What's your gut reaction to that kind of name calling?
Oh, I'd say that's not common sense. The thing about racism, I mean, of all the candidates, I'm the one that works with the immigrant community. Yo hablo español. I speak Spanish all day. I speak Portuguese. These are my people. These are my friends. I go to their funerals. I go to their birthdays. I mean, these are the people I work with every single day. I'm the only candidate that my whole life is with the immigrant community. So why we have these politicians up in the state house that say, this is racism, or these are what the immigrants don't want. I want to say to them, you don't work with them. I do every single day. These are my people. These are my friends. These are the people I talk with every day. And they're worried about the things you and I are talking about: affordability, a good zip code. Those are the things that matter to them.
And usually those immigrants that are here legally and working and paying their taxes and raising their family are very adamant about illegal aliens. They why? They did it the hard way. They did for lack of a better way of phrasing it, Chris, they paid their dues. They did their time. They paid the money, and then people just break the law, and they're getting benefits that they're not even getting. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, we are running out of time. So voter fraud, I get it. I think you covered that pretty good. What about EBT cards and fraud within the Commonwealth? Because we have, every time, we get this drug bust, right? The dealer has 17, 18 EBT cards. We have cash benefit on our EBT cards. And then we see when we audit this, we find out that there's a good number of cash being pulled from Hawaii and Florida and even the Cayman Islands. I mean, there's so our cash is going out from the Massachusetts taxpayers all over the place. We have drug dealers with 17, 18 cards, which obviously means that the PIN was given to them. So that was either used as collateral and or money. We've got drop houses, right? Drop addresses where 17, 18, 20 people, 30 people live at this one address, but nobody really lives at that address. Now, a few years ago, Chris, we did the state decided, you know what we're going to do? We can register. Here we go back, right? Register people. So we're gonna put the register into mail out to all the EBT card holders, because if we register them to vote, they're pretty good the chance they're going to vote Democrat. And what happened? Thousands came back undeliverable, meaning that these EBT cards are loaded every month. You never have to show up in person, right? It's just automatically that card is loaded, bang, and nothing else happens. And that's ripe for fraud too. Would you look at EBT fraud period within the Commonwealth? We've got the Bureau of Special Investigation that years ago used to be under the Department of Public Safety, i.e., state police and police agencies. They moved it to Health and Human Services and cut the number of investigators. Yet one investigator, I would say, wouldn't even take them a month to save the Commonwealth their salary in fraud.
Yeah, again, I come from the business sector where we don't waste money. And you can't waste money in the business sector. And I would just bring that to the governor's office. I would say we're gonna check every dollar. I'm a budget guy. I like financial statements. I've been reading the state's financial statements for the last couple of years, and I just see a lot of opportunity for someone to come in like myself to say, let's go through every department, and let's go through every dollar and make sure we're not wasting any of it, because it's not our money, it's the citizens' money, and let's give as much back to them as we possibly can.
Sure. Would you be open to bringing back something like the Bureau of Special Investigation targeting welfare fraud, EBT card fraud, and false benefits being paid?
I get audited all the time. I have financial audits, I have quality audits, I have safety audits. I'm a huge believer in audits, and I'm on the receiving end of audits. Day one as governor, I'd say we're coming to audit. We're going to audit everything. There should be lots of audits.
Well, maybe you should put the state auditor in the next room, the next office to you then.
I've been listening. I've been listening to some of the state auditors, and I worry because they want to audit carbon footprint. They want to audit race.
My God. Right.
And I want to say to them, whoever we end up getting, I want to say to them, hey, your job is to go through the financial statement, because if you're not going to do it, I'm doing it. I'm going to go through every financial statement of every department and make sure we're spending it wisely. But I don't want you out like doing carbon footprint.
Yeah, that's all about getting woke brownie points, Chris.
Yeah,
that's just getting on that bandwagon and trying to show their fellow progressive left that they're right on board with everything. Now, unfortunately, we're running out of time. I did want to get into the drug situation, the fentanyl abuse. Huge bust in Lawrence, right? They're running a drug ring. We've got the 95 corridor that comes up the coast here, right through Massachusetts into Quincy. Tons of fentanyl, tons of drugs. We don't have time for that. I'd love to hear what you think about that and so forth. So I'll invite you back on maybe one of the weekend editions or another time.
I really would like that. This has been wonderful. If I can just give a plug for my website for anyone that might be interested, it's Chris4MA, so F-O-R, MA.com. So you can learn more about me. And
you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page.
Do you have Twitter?
Social media. We have Twitter.
All right, so people can follow you.
Yeah.
And your login or your thing is for everything. It's Chris4, the same thing.
MA.
Okay,
Chris4MA.com. You can access all the social media there, and hope we can have a lot of people that are kind of common sense people like myself saying, "Hey, we don't need extremism. We just need some common sense business people to come in and move."
Do you have a headquarters yet set up?
Not yet. We have some space we're working on and building out the team.
Okay. And anybody who wants to volunteer, get involved, they can contact you through those things that we said. It's up on my Facebook page. I'll make sure I share it as well. But that wraps it up, Chris. Hopefully we'll have you back. Thank you very much for taking time out today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Chris Doty, GOP candidate. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. That wraps up the Monday show, folks. I'll be back Thursday morning for Political Thursday with Jerry Doherty. You have a fantastic day.